Well, 2024 is done. Somehow. It's 2025. So it's time to go over those 2024 financial goals. And as you guys might remember, 2024 was supposed to be a year of catching up for me. I started the year in North Carolina, and the lawsuit wasn't even over until almost the end of January. And then at that point, for the first time in 2 years, I could take a sigh of relief. And I felt like a stranded ship rescue person that finally found an island, and I was alive, but I was so exhausted from swimming that all I could do once I got there was just like pass out. And that's essentially what happened. I spent at least a couple of months just catching up, and then rebuilding my life started. But by that point, I'd already set my 2024 financial goals, which some of them a little bit are life goals as well. So I knew what I had to work on. The first thing that was just at the top of my list was taking care of my storage unit. And my mom has a storage unit as well that I manage. And those have just been a huge pain for me for a long time. I pay for them every month, and it's an expense I'd like not to have. But at the same time, when do I have time to organize or move the stuff? And the answer to that is pretty much never. It's not in a location that's close to me, and I work so much that I don't really have time to go through them. It was a huge project I worked on back in 2021, and I got a lot of it accomplished. But then when I had to move in 2021, and then again in 2022, and then again in 2023, a lot of stuff just got shoved right into the middle of the storage unit and took up all the space that I got freed up from where I worked before. Now, as I said, I was in North Carolina until May of 2024. So I obviously didn't get to work on it until I came back to Ohio, where the unit is located. But even coming back, I ended up not actually being able to work on it very much at all. And that's because by the time that I was back in Ohio, I already knew that I was going to be moving somewhere. I wasn't sure yet, but I knew that I'd gotten a job where I was going to have to move again, and that was going to be in July. So I really only had a maybe 2-month window to work on the storage unit, which means that as far as this goal goes, I really didn't get much of any of it done. The only thing I can say is that when I did get in there to move, I got to sort of assess it, and I realized it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I really didn't have much time to work on it. I pulled some stuff out to take with me when I moved, but then I put some stuff back in that I wasn't going to take to move, and I think it pretty much just evened out as far as how much stuff is in there. So as for the first goal, nah, I'm just going to have to do that sometime in the future, sometime where I'm more able to stay in Ohio for a little while. But the second goal was to do the deferred maintenance on the car. Up until about the end of 2021-ish, the car was in perfect mechanical shape. And anytime anything popped up, I would take it to the dealership and I would get it fixed immediately. But, well, things started going downhill, as you guys know, in 2021, and also, that included my finances, so things started not getting taken care of. And I put a lot of miles on the car in those 2 years as well, especially driving back and forth to Columbus every day for work for more than a year. So what ended up happening was there was all this work that needed done on the car. And of course, I didn't have the money to do it. So the plan for this year was to get caught up on all that deferred maintenance, or at least hopefully a big chunk of it. So did any of that get done? Well, yes and no. In the first half of the year, yes. In the second half of the year, no, but let me explain. So during the first half of the year, although I was very broke, I was making progress toward getting this stuff caught up. I'd been behind on getting an oil change, so I went to the dealership and I got that. That way, since the dealership does that multi-point inspection, I also got them to point out everything that was wrong and give me a list to work off of everything I needed fixed. But I had some leaky tires, and I did get 2 of them replaced. I think maybe one in April and one in July, something like that. That left a 3rd leaky one that never actually got fixed. To this day, I still fill it up about once a week, but it leaks a lot slower than the others, so that's not a huge concern. But while I had my big list of things that I needed to fix on it, I started having more problems with it. For the first time that I've had this car, and I've had it since 2017, it started breaking down on me. And it's a very long story, but essentially it was overheating, and I ended up having to spend so much money on new repairs to keep it going that I didn't spend the money on the old repairs to get caught up on, which was the plan for the year. And over the course of the year, I ended up spending a lot of money. I replaced the radiator, the upper and lower radiator hoses, did a coolant flush, put in all new coolant and conditioner, and that was all before I got out to Indiana. Now, for the second half of the year, from like July to now, I really didn't get much more done, and that's because replacing the radiator and all those problems, that was in July. I drove it all the way out to Indiana and had no problems, and then the weekend after I got out here, it basically blew up. At least I thought that's what happened. It is still drivable. It's got some serious problems, and I don't take it any farther than the grocery store. I'm very thankful that it does that for me. But basically, this is a very expensive problem that I don't have the means to deal with right now. So it is my around town car that I take for very short errands. And it's going to be that way until I clear some other things off my plate so that I can save up to just replace it. That said, I did get a couple more things maintenance-wise done. One thing it started to do was sending me a code that the coolant temperature sensor was malfunctioning. So I did replace that. I learned how to do it myself. And ever since I did that, there has been an issue with it where every once in a while it throws the code again, tells me that even though I just replaced the sensor that it's bad, and then it'll send me the code saying it can't read the temperature from that sensor, but it doesn't seem to be overheating. That said though, I don't know enough about cars to know if what I did actually fixed it and there's just some kind of like electrical thing that's setting that sensor off, or if I broke it worse so that it actually is overheating and it just doesn't read as it's overheating. So I still don't trust it. And then on top of that, I replaced the battery as well because the battery just kind of randomly died one day and the car wouldn't start. So it does have a brand new battery as well. Now, because of all those repairs, and because now that I live in a town that, well, I don't really need to go very far. I don't really ever leave the city, practically don't leave my house. I don't really have the need of the car like I did before, especially when I now have money coming in from the fraternity job. I'm not driving the car hundreds of miles a week. Maybe 20 at most. So it's not really racking up more problems. And slowly I've gotten caught up on a few of them. So right now it's just nursing the thing along for a year or maybe 2 until I can get some more stuff off my plate and be able to save up and just outright replace it. Now, the third goal was taxes. You guys know that I got behind on my taxes. I've talked about it quite a bit on here. I didn't file my taxes for 2021 or 2022 or 2023, although with 2023 I did actually file for the extension. And that was what actually motivated me to get it done. I saw the extension deadline was going to be the end of October, so I really shifted gears from what I was doing and I got everything together and I got 2023 filed on time for the extension deadline. And now that means that I've just got to file those past 2 years. The good thing is, I do have 2024 completely ready to go. I was on top of keeping that organized, and so I don't have to worry about that. Just need to file it when I'm able to. And when I moved up here to Indiana, I was able to find the 2021 tax papers in storage, so they are at least organized now for when I can get to them. And I couldn't find the 2022 tax papers, and I was worried where they could have gone to, but I did actually find them. They were buried in some other documents that I'd carried with me to the Carolinas, so I actually had them in the car the whole time. So I now have 2021 and 2022 tax papers organized in piles so that when I can get to them, I can file them. The reason I say when I can get to them is because it's not just a time issue, it's also a money issue. See, when I filed the 2023 taxes, that's great, right? Because I have to do that and I'm getting back on track, but it also means I have to actually pay the taxes now that I know what amount I have to pay. And I owed nothing for the state, and I owed about $100 or so for school district tax, and then I owed $2,300 for federal. So that's the main thing that's got to get paid. However, as it stands right now, I do not have any money to pay that because I just don't have the extra money to put toward it. That is because, as we'll get into here in a bit, I am actually paying a lot of other debts. And there is a debt that's going to be paid off here fairly soon, that once that's paid, the money that's going toward that will go toward paying this. Of course, by that time, I'll also have 2024 filed, and I'll owe for that too. So I'm getting caught up, but I'm just in that, like, I'm in that middle ground where, like, you go to clean your room, and in order to get it clean, you, like, tear everything apart and make a bigger mess before you can put it back together. That's kind of what this is. So then the fourth goal, and this was one that I was really worried about. The fourth goal was that I wanted to reduce the proportion or the percentage of income that was coming from the gig apps. And that was like DoorDash, Uber Eats, Instacart. My car has been having problems, and I can't rely on it to produce me any income. Not that those apps are that profitable anymore either. I just was doing it because I didn't have much of any other option. But even if they were, I still really just didn't want that much of my money to come from that. In 2023, at the end of the year, I looked on Mint and I categorized all of my income transactions, and it showed that, like, a huge portion, it was like over 2/3 of my income was coming from these gig apps. And I was like, that's not good. Like, coming from something that is barely profitable. So after seeing that and seeing what a large percentage of it was, I wanted to make sure for 2024 that gets cut down a lot. And the plan was that once I got out here to Indiana and the money started coming in from the fraternity job, then basically what I would have to work less doing that. That was the plan. Basically, once the first came in, the first check, it would come in August 25th. From that point on, I'd pretty much just stop doing DoorDash and everything and rely on this other thing that's much more profitable, because I'm essentially working on site or working from home, depending on how you look at it. But I don't have the expenses of commuting or driving during my job. So I am happy to say that I met this goal, but I'm not happy to say about how I met this goal. Hear me out. So, like I said, the plan was to get out here and get that first paycheck in, and then I could just stop doing DoorDash, right? I could just turn to whatever was the more profitable money. Except it didn't work that way, because like I said, with the car problems, I got out here, and like the weekend after I got here, the car kind of died. Like it was overheating after driving it like a minute or two. So obviously I couldn't make any money doing that. Um, and I will tell you, August was a struggle month until that first check came in. And even then it was a partial check because I'd got a cash advance to move out here. But it was a struggle because food service hadn't started yet for the house, so I had to get my own food, which I had no money to pay for and no way to earn the money because what I ended up doing just to get by is I went to a food pantry once. I think I've mentioned that before, but I also I ate a bag of chocolate I found in the kitchen. There wasn't much food in there because it was over the summer. It was baker's chocolate. It was not good, but I needed some kind of nutrition. And I also walked DoorDash bike routes because you can do car or bicycle. And so I would walk downtown, which is like 2 miles, and then I would walk multiple miles a day around the city doing on-foot deliveries for like $5 each, and then walk the 2 miles back. I was walking literally like 20 miles a day. And I did that because I needed like $5 or $10 so that I could go get some kind of food. And yeah, August was a real struggle month. And it didn't really straighten itself out until October, because the end of September is when I got that first full paycheck. So things are definitely better now than they were then. But man, that really cut things close. So the point of saying all that is I meant for the car to just be an around town car when I got out here. And I meant to mostly stop doing DoorDash and the other delivery stuff once I got out here. But that option was kind of taken away from me because a month earlier than expected, the car started not working. So I had to do it anyway. I wasn't ready. And I got there somehow, but kind of takes the wind out of your sails when you set a goal and you make the goal, but you were also like forced to. I don't know. Hopefully you guys understand what I mean about that. So as far as the proportion of income coming from these gig apps, at the 6-month mark, not at all. In fact, the majority of my income was still coming from the apps, especially because TaskRabbit's been fairly dead this year. So I did make it for the year. Just to be clear, by the end of the year, because I pretty much stopped doing DoorDash altogether, I did end up making it so that the majority of my income came from sources other than these gig apps. But it was really just almost not doing it at all during the last half of the year that switched that from it being the majority to the minority of my income. I meant to write down some rough numbers and I forgot to do it, so I'm just gonna go from my memory here. But I want to say that I made somewhere under $10,000 for the year for DoorDash. And I did not do Uber Eats at all. And I want to say Instacart was like a few $100s. So, keep those numbers in your mind. And then I have made so far this year $2,500 a month for the months of August, September, October, November, and December. So it's like $12,500, I think. But so it is it's better. And now that I say that, I think the proportion is actually a little bit better. Like I think it's roughly 75% that I made from, oh, it's because I forgot to put in the furniture assembly work. So yeah, if you put in the TaskRabbit, independent furniture assembly, and the fraternity job, it's like 75% of my income, with the gig stuff being about 25. So worked that out. And I mean, of course, that's the whole thing about profit, right? Like if you're making basically no profit, you're barely getting anywhere. It's like a car like spinning through the mud, and you're not stuck, but you're like just inching forward. But then if you can get more profit for the work that you do, that's more traction, and you can, you're making more progress. Like you're moving farther forward and not as stuck. So that's kind of where things are right now. Um, I mean, things are not perfect, and I wouldn't even say they're good, but they are better. I'm moving forward faster now, and I'm just going to keep working on that. And then the fifth goal was get the fraternity job back. Somebody said one of my goals for this year was to be housed, and I didn't make that a goal because I didn't see how that was going to happen. So, but it did. The only way it could have happened is with a fraternity because I get free housing, but it happened. So I got the income coming in from that, and I got the housing coming in from that. So that goal, I don't really have any other details. It's just that one's achieved. And then at the 6-month mark, I made an update because at the beginning of the year when I made the goals, I was still homeless, living in North Carolina, and really didn't have anything lined up for income. And so by the 6-month mark, I was back from North Carolina. I had a job lined up. I think I just didn't know exactly where I was going to be stationed yet. But I knew that as far as my finances, my life was going to be very different for the second half of the year. So I don't normally set second half of the year goals, but I did just because of the special circumstance this year. One of the things I said I was going to do was that as I was doing deliveries for DoorDash and the other apps, that I was going to put $1 per delivery toward debt. It's not much at all, but at least I was putting something away toward debt. For some reason I didn't do it, and I may have just forgotten. But I also really, after making that 6-month update video, I didn't really do the gig apps much. There was one busy football game weekend here in a college town where I rented a car and I did DoorDash all day. And then there was like one other day, I think I was doing TaskRabbit in Indianapolis, and when I had the rental car for that, I was doing a few DoorDash orders. So like literally like 2 days for the second half of the year is all I did it. Now I didn't put that $1 per delivery away, but it also shows you how little I've been doing the gig apps in general. And then the next thing I said I was going to do is what I call 5% and 5%. Essentially what I do is I take 10% of my income, and now that I actually have an income coming in from the fraternity work, I take that 10% and I split it in half. It's 5% to savings and 5% toward, originally it was retirement, but I changed that to make it toward debt. So I've been paying off debt like crazy, and I'll go into a little more detail on that. But basically, start with the savings. So the savings, obviously during the divorce, that was completely depleted. I had nothing saved. So starting when I got my second paycheck, because I was so broke for the first, I couldn't afford it. The second paycheck, I put away $50. Not 5%, but I still couldn't do much because I was broke. But I did $50 in September, $125 in October, $125 in November, and $125 in December. So whatever that is put together, $450, $500, something like that. That's what I've got saved right now. I know that's not much, but it feels a lot better, like security wise, to have that. Now, it's not an emergency fund in the strict Dave Ramsey sense. It's not money that you put away and never touch. But it is money that will be used for things as need be, but used sparingly, because I do want to have as much in there as possible. Here in a few days, I am taking a trip home, and basically I'm going to go ahead and put on my debit card the rental car and the food that I get on the way home, but then I'm going to reimburse myself from the savings. And then I'll have all spring semester to replenish that. So overall, I'll still have more than that at the end of spring semester. Then the other half of the 5% is paying toward debt. And I have a lot of debt. I have student loans and I have credit cards. There's a lot of things I could put it toward. But what I'm actually using it for right now is I got on a payment plan with the company that I owe money to for the lawsuit. I started out owing them $2,058 and some cents, and I've paid quite a bit toward it just really in the last quarter of this year. I've paid $757. That doesn't sound like that much to most people, I get it, but I don't make much per month, and that's a huge amount of money. So $757 paid so far, and that leaves me still owing them $1,301.25, which I'm planning to mostly have paid off by the end of the school year, so that'll be May. If I get some random furniture assembly gigs and stuff, I can put a little extra and make sure it's paid off. But I'm actually going to be decreasing a little bit how much I'm paying them, because I'm able to make partial payments. I was just paying a little, like $200 to $277 per month each month, because those were like entire invoices. But I'm left with two great big invoices that I'm gonna have to make partial payments to anyway. So I'm gonna give myself a little more wiggle room coming, 2025. I'm gonna be paying a little less per month, but I'm still gonna be paying toward it, with the goal of having that $1,300 remainder paid off by the end of May. And on top of that, there is an additional $75 invoice with a different company. They have not actually asked me for payment, so I'm gonna get the other one paid off first, then I'm gonna pay the $75 one. And then that's where the money is going to come from to pay the 2023 taxes. So this 5% that I have set aside, plus usually some more, because like I said, I'm paying $200+ a month, and the 5% only gets me $125. But basically, I am going to just switch gears after this is paid off and then pay that money toward those 2023 taxes. And then the final thing that I said that I would do, now that I'm out here and have housing and food and, I'm able to work on finances a little bit, is once I got the hang of the fraternity thing, since it's pretty flexible, I'd try to get a second job as well. And honestly, it'd make a huge difference as far as getting stuff caught up and paid off. But it's not for lack of trying, but I have not got anything. I'm sure you guys are aware how the job market is right now. It's not that I haven't looked or haven't applied to things. I have gotten a lot of rejections, but I haven't even gotten a single phone screen. Not for one single thing that I've applied for. I haven't gotten any response other than a rejection. So this is definitely the toughest job market I've ever seen. Things are tight on $2,500 a month, but I'm used to money being tight. I can live like this. It'd be better if I wasn't living like this, but it's just the way that it is. And if I can make money on the side here and there doing TaskRabbit or doing my own furniture assembly, I'll pick that up. That's been super slow too, but I will take it where I can get it, and I'll have these random little bursts of extra money. and I will continue looking for opportunities. But as far as either full-time jobs that I can work on top of this one or part-time jobs, um, there's not really anything out there. It's still an option, but it's just not something that has worked out for me so far. So that was something that I wanted to try to do. So I guess I can say that goal did not work out. That was kind of out of my hands. I did my half of it, but there's just not really anything right now. And I'm watching a lot of videos on YouTube about other people applying for jobs right now and how hard of a time they're having. I guess I just didn't realize that it was that bad because I was kind of like randomly, passively applying here and there and not on a full job search. But yeah, now that I think about it, I'm like, hey, I applied for those jobs and I never heard anything back. And yeah, you don't really think about it, but normally you at least get a phone screen or even a first interview and then get ghosted, but I'm not even getting that. So it's rough out there. But that is 2024. Things are still difficult for me. I mean, stuff is tight. I have to really watch my money. It's part of why I almost never leave the house, because that involves spending money on gas, depreciation on the car, plus then you end up eating out or getting junk at the gas station. So I pretty much just stay here, and I'm gonna continue being a shut-in to save money until I get caught up on some of this. So that's 2024. I will, as soon as I possibly can, get you guys a video for my goals for 2025, which so far they look like they're panning out to be more sort of getting life together goals rather than finance, but I'll break them down to sort of how they relate to finances as well. I should have that video up for you guys in a few days, and in the meantime, just let me know what you think about my results for the year and how you did on your goals.